I'm Chris, and this is my story for the day. First of all, I hope you appreciate the new background as well as I do, especially since, in case you're wondering why, a little shooting outside and doing take after take means being eaten alive by bugs. And I personally can really do without that. And I'm sure so can you. So, remember when you were young and there were certain things you wanted to do but you weren't allowed to, and your parents always said, well, when you grow up and you have your own life and you have to put your own food on your own table under, under your roof, or at least sort of your own roof if it doesn't belong to the bank or the landlord or whatever, then you could do all the blah 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 you want. You could have pizza for breakfast and cereal for dinner, but until then, you're here, and so therefore you go by my rules. When you grow up and you have your own place, you can have your rules. So, naturally, first thing on my agenda was, after I graduated high school, was grow my hair long. Why? Because, let's see, along with being a new waver, well, excuse me, keyboard. My primary instrument is piano, and therefore organ and keyboard, and so therefore I'm going to be listening to a lot of new wave and a lot of new age and a lot of movie soundtracks, so naturally there was a lot of Duran Duran and Vangelis and Styx and Saga and Journey and Gamma and Tangerine Dream and Patrick O'Hearn, etc. and so on and so forth, ... I was also really into headbanger music, and so I wanted to be kind of like a new wave headbanger, or one kind of like, well, sort of like, basically fit into either category, or at least all sides of the spectrum. And when I say headbanger, yes, I was listening to things like Scorpions, I was listening to Iron Maiden, and Judas Priest, and Led Zeppelin, which I've been listening to since I was about 8, Thank you, Sean, my brother, for getting me into that. And let's see, there was also Van Halen. Well, okay, the first 4 albums, which were really hard-rocking, fair warning indeed. I was also being, let's see, around this year in 1988, along with that, I was also listening to, as I mentioned, a lot of Christian metal. So there was Stryper, the hair and spandex, but, pop metal, which kind of gatewayed into, let's see, Barren Cross and White Cross and Blood Good, which were, more the, so I was listening to a lot of that. So I was a new wave headbanger, and so finally I got to start making myself look like one or the other, if not both. So I grew my hair long. This wasn't exactly, the next thing was not exactly on the agenda. It is more like a hitchhiker that I just that picked up along the way, metaphorically speaking. I started wearing an earring on a permanent basis. Now, I had pierced my ear before. There was my 9th grade algebra class where I pierced my ear. Right there in class, some girls sitting in front of me were talking about doing the ear piercing, by themselves, no gun or anything like that, and maybe icing out the earlobe and using a needle, yada 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 yada. To which I said, hey, you know something? I can pierce my ear right here and now if I wanted to. One girl says, okay, do it. I said, all right. Everybody in the class, oh my God, he just stuck it through his ear like it was nothing at all. Whoa. Now, how did I know this, that I could just do it right there and now at the time? Apparently there had been a time before, but, Your Honor, I have no clear memory of what I'm about to say. I have no clear recollection, but maybe this happened. There's a good chance it didn't. I apparently had pierced my ear with something once. Maybe I got loaded on one weekend and took a Christmas tree ornament off the Christmas tree and tried to say, hey, see, look at this. But I don't know. As I said, I have no clear memory. So, there was that. And then, so I, back about a week before graduation, many years later, I finally succumbed to wearing one on a permanent basis, buying into this trend the same way Kunta Kinte and Roots finally submitted. He was flogged into submission of accepting his new name, Toby. Let's not, but I digress. And so I was wearing one on a permanent basis, and then a month and a half goes by, and I'm over at my friend, who's now my brother Sean's, and he and I and God knows how many of his friends, we all go to the Sting concert. This is when Sting still had some jazz pizzazz and razzmatazz, and I decided to mark the moment by, putting another earring in. So I got two of them. And a little bit later, I said, hey, wait a minute, I got a space for me, I got a space for a friend of mine, and, marking the moment. And what about my girlfriend? Oh, yeah. Well, so I had 3 dents. And you can probably see them. Oh, no. So, I moved down to Hollywood, and Thanksgiving comes around. And so my sister and I, we go back to we go to my mom and my stepdad, we go to my dad and my stepmom's place. And the first thing my stepmom says is, Chris, your dad's going to hate those earrings, especially that cross earring. And I said, well, I thought when I grew up I could do whatever I please, or something to that nature. I said, well, I'm grown up now, or running my own shows, so, anyway, to that nature. So she says, well, don't tell me I didn't warn you. Now, apparently, I don't know exactly what happened before we arrived, but this is what I basically gather. Apparently there had been this documentary of the Holocaust playing on some channel. Why would you, unless it's ratings week, or unless you're trying to beat the ratings of the Thanksgiving football game, why would he put a Holocaust documentary on TV, on Thanksgiving? Ugh. Maybe to give thanks that you don't have to go through that situation? I don't know. And apparently this documentary was very one-sided. It left out a whole bunch of facts. It was basically saying that everybody in Germany was on the bandwagon of, slaughtering and, exterminating Jewish people. And anybody else who wasn't on the bandwagon. Regardless of all the people who weren't on the bandwagon, this documentary apparently forgot to mention people like Oskar Schindler, and forgot to mention people like those who got a whole bunch of Jewish families out of the country before extermination. And let's see, they forgot to mention the nurse who worked in a camp who was smuggling babies and toddlers and children out of the extermination camps. Forgot to mention all that. They just said all of Germany was on the bandwagon, blah, 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 blah. And kind of like saying, cats die, George Washington was a cat, so therefore, cats die, George Washington is dead, so therefore George Washington was a cat. So there's this huge debate going on between me and my sister about the whole thing that had just been watched. And finally it comes to the point where my dad says, no. It was just as easy as me going up there and say, okay, kill all people who have long hair and a cross in his ear. My stepmom is over in the kitchen. My sister is going, I'm thinking, all right, you got me, let me take this junk off. Later, I told you. Yes, I know you told me. Well, there's one lesson. Well, about a month and a half later, I stopped, wearing them. So what am I doing this for? That was just jumping on the bandwagon anyway, and I hate being someone who just jumps on a bandwagon. I guess the lesson is, yes, when you grow up, you can get away with more things, you can do more things, but for one thing, not all. And second, when you're visiting your parents, have the common courtesy to, trim down certain things. Like, if you know that, if you're at least told that something is going to be absolutely despised, get rid of it. And that's my story for the day, and good day to you.